In this comparison video, I'm doing something incredibly unique, comparing a LEGO Star Wars prototype model to a final LEGO Star Wars production model. For the longest time, LEGO Star Wars avoided Yavin like the plague, only ever producing a planet set back in 2012, a pair of junior sets with small bits of Yavin scenery in 2019, and a couple of ceremony minifigs and some books. One of those books being the first LEGO Star Wars visual dictionary in 2009, which is where we got our first glimpse of this LEGO Star Wars Yavin playset prototype. Given the visual dictionaries from 2009, I would guess that the prototype was built sometime around 2008, creating a 15-year difference between the Yavin prototype model and the official Yavin set released in summer 2023. From what we can see, the prototype model was going to include around 14 minifigures, while the 2023 set only includes 12. The Luke, Han, and Leia shown in the pictures are not the ones I used for the build, but these are what were released not too long after the prototype model pictures came out, so I felt they were appropriate for what could have been in the final release. Compared to what we're seeing modern day, the big change is that the medallion that they're wearing is now a physical piece instead of just a print on the torso, which means you can actually remove the metal or put it on as you please. It's hard to tell what the exact design of the prototype Rebel pilots were because they're facing away from the camera, but compared to newer era Rebel pilots, they don't really compare. The new stuff is just so much better. You can also see in that briefing room a character wearing green, which I assume to be some sort of A-Wing pilot, so I had him included in my build. Of course, the one you see here is a much more modern version of what they would have included at the time, though. The LEGO Chewbacca is somewhere that LEGO has upgraded massively over the years, and seeing them side by side is a great reminder of that. The same can be said for R2 and C-3PO. The C-3PO in the official set ended up getting arm printing and some awesome leg printing, while R2-D2 actually introduced back printing a year ago, has back printing in this newer Yavin set, which is a huge upgrade from 2008. There's also an additional astromech droid and General Dodonna included in the newer set that weren't shown off in the prototype. You had a ground crew member and I think Wedge Antilles shown in the prototype image of the original set, but in the 2023 version of Yavin, you'll only end up getting one Rebel ground crew member. And finally, we have our Rebel fleet troopers, a character that has not changed all that much in 15 years, although I gotta say I love the binocular piece they included with the newer one. I do wish there were more Rebel fleet troopers in this newer set. Seeing 3 in the prototype versus only 1 in the final set just makes me sad. Now, both models have hangars with vehicles in them, which I want to take a look at before we actually talk about the design of the hangar. The 2023 model did a Y-Wing instead of the X-Wing from the concept model. Part of that may have to do with the fact that there's an X-Wing already on shelves and the Y-Wing here fills a void. Regardless of what ship is included, you can tell there are a few extra accessories with the newer set, given that it has some ground lights and a staircase to lead into the cockpit of the Y-Wing. And I find the Y-Wing to be an absolute treat within the 2023 Yavin set. It even has some nice play features with some spring-loaded shooters on top. They look a bit ugly, I would say, but they're nice play features I talked about in my review. You can even fit a pilot inside of the cockpit, like so. I don't quite have the same great things to say about this X-Wing. While for 2008, it's a pretty decent look at a smaller scale X-Wing, it is notoriously weak for the build. I don't want to break it, but I gotta show you just how bad it is. Oh, that came off. Oh, that came off. Oh, that came off. Oh, would you look at that? Another piece came off. This thing falls apart easier than any LEGO set or thing I have ever owned. It is the worst. It looks kind of cool and fits in scale with the prototype Yavin, but my lord, is this like the weakest model ever. It's annoying. It also doesn't have like a cockpit that you can place a minifig in or anything. I was going to show you what it looked like with the wings open. However, I forgot you literally can't do that. As you can see, the plates go right up to the main body of the X-Wing, so you can't actually open it when the wing is on there. So yeah, this X-Wing is a mess. I would not have been happy if this is what they released. Now, they would probably never release something in that state, but the prototype just shows you how rough things can be sometimes. The maintenance carts here show a crazy difference. The accuracy on the 2023 version is off the chain versus this dinky little 2008 era maintenance cart. What we have here is just way cooler. You can place weapons inside, and it's got the ability to have minifigs sit on top, just like in the movie. When it comes to actual hangar space on each of the builds, the prototype model is destroying the official model because it just has a lot more. Now, aesthetically, what you have with the newer model is much better and more accurate, so I, in that sense, really like what the newer model does for the hangar opening, but there's a lot of space and a base plate for this one, whereas the best the new set can do you is some empty space on the ground, so I appreciate the base plate. The X-Wing has plenty of space to fit within the hangar, although it can break easily, so you have to put it down carefully. You can add the cart in there and bring a little more life to it. It's pretty much the same deal for the 2023 model. You can place your Y-Wing in, bring your accessories to add more life to it, and then throw in the cart. The layout of the build around the hangar has some similarities between the two builds. Both of them do include ladders to lead you up to an upper level. However, the ladders in the 2008 prototype lead to some turrets, while the ladders on the official model lead to your separate rooms. The space underneath those rooms is also far better utilized in the final model compared to the prototype model, which just leaves the space completely empty with just some pillars for support of the levels above. The prototype briefing room is rough, although if it has one thing going for it, it is its strength. If you push down on this brick, it ain't going anywhere. That brick-built design goes a long way. Now, I will say in the pictures, it does have an image of the Death Star taken from the display plaque on the UCS Death Star from 2005, so that's something I wasn't able to replicate. But the seating in this area is bad, with some plates on the ground that you can put minifigs on, and anytime you want to take minifigs off, it pulls the entire plate off. It's not a fun or enjoyable experience. Meanwhile, the 2023 set has a more open concept for the briefing room. It also has actual seats where you can place minifigs in them, and you don't have to worry about things breaking when you want to take a minifig out of the seat. Not to mention the really cool panel by General Dodonna. The control room was a bit nicer in the images versus what I was able to recreate here, but it definitely gives you enough space to place some minifigs in and have them playing around in that area. You can see some of those same translucent blue boards that I wasn't able to replicate in my concept model with the 2023 set, just giant stickers on translucent blue bricks. It looks really nice. And the circular piece has a sticker on it to add detail that we didn't see in the prototype model. Now, one section the 2023 model has that the prototype version doesn't is this section with stud shooters and a nice control panel there. It's just something they clearly weren't thinking of when the prototype came about, and stud shooters also didn't exist. Now, I think the biggest thing that the prototype has over the official model is the ceremony room. You just saw the large ceremony room versus the tiny ceremony room for 2023. Now, you can still fit plenty of minifigs inside of the new ceremony room, but it's just so cramped. There's a lot less foliage in the prototype one, but holy crap, is it so much more spacious, and you don't have any walls on any sides, so you're actually able to put your hand wherever you would like, because this thing's tiny. Like, you can't do anything, versus just completely open on the top of the prototype Yavin base. It also really did attempt to recreate that grand walkway with a literal red carpet surrounded by rebel troopers and of course your main characters at the back end. And not to worry, while the top end may look like it's weak, the plates on here are actually surprisingly strong to push down minifigs on. And then on the very top, they just put a cap in 2008. However, for 2023, they give you a whole radar dish that you can actually remove and play with if you'd like. I didn't perfectly nail the look of the base for the prototype watchtower, but neither did LEGO for 2023's watchtower base. Get it? Because the tree sucks. Anyway, the brick-built base for the prototype watchtower is good looking, and it matches the Yavin base that we see versus the 4+ juniorized tree over here that's just so void of detail, it's annoying. The look and functionality of the actual nest, though, for 2008 pales in comparison to what they did in 2023. It's just so much more detailed, so much easier to put a minifig in there. He can actually stand up versus having to sit down there, although it doesn't really change the look all too much between the two. The overall design, though, is clearly much nicer on the newer set, and it also breaks off really easily on the prototype. Like, that's it. Like, that's all that was connecting it, at least in the version that I built. Compared to this set, you have the ability to raise and lower the nest without it breaking. Isn't that nice? So both definitely have their own reasons to like and dislike them, but ultimately that newer one's nest is just so good. You also have to know the exterior of this prototype Yavin was absolutely huge compared to what we see on the officially released version. You actually can see some of the same pieces being used. It's kind of interesting how over 15 years some things stay the same and some things don't, especially with these large panel pieces here being used again in 2023, just in a darker tan color. So there are some similar aspects to that, but the just bulkier look of 2008's prototype model is crazy compared to the more compact playset that we ended up with. And it's funny how you'll see some aspects that are similar in similar places, but also like the slats in the wall from the ceremony room, those are actually on the front of this Yavin base, although I guess I don't really know which way is the front on this. It clearly isn't in the same spot as the other things that are in the same spot, you know? The final thing you need to know between these two builds is that the official set is 1,066 pieces for $170, while the prototype build only took about 1,200 pieces to complete. Maybe give or take 50 there, but the price to build the prototype model cost me like $400 or $500. It was not cheap compared to the $170 on this official Yavin set, and people still think $170 is overpriced. So I think if LEGO actually did release a Yavin build like this in around 2008, it probably would have cost $300, $350. It would not have been cheap. It definitely needed more to be worth that price because, as you can tell, it's pretty bare bones. There's a lot of empty space, and they basically took away all that empty space for the official model, more or less. It's obviously really neat to see what could have been versus what is for LEGO Star Wars Yavin playsets. Back in 2008, this would have just been an insane release, and I'm kind of glad they didn't release it, at least nowhere near the state it was in 2008, because it is a bad set. It is really hard to pick up, it falls apart easily, and it's just gonna take up a lot of space for something that doesn't feel like it needs to take up all that space because it doesn't do anything crazy cool. Like, this one at least is more compact, it's stronger. I appreciate that it exists, and I'm so happy to be able to have one built to compare to this one. I know I didn't keep score like a normal comparison, but if I was, this is what it would look like. It's a bloodbath. The new set is better, I know. I still don't think either of them are particularly great, but let me know which set you think is better in the comments section below. Leave a like if you enjoyed this unique comparison, and you can check out more set comparisons on the end screen now.